Dandat Pranam. Mataji, should I start the Kirtan?
Yes, Mati, I think you can start.
Yes, Prabhuji. ఇంకా తలుపులు మోసుకొని సౌండ్ నా క్లాస్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది. Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam. So we'll start with Radhe Jai Jai Madhav Dete is written by Rupa Goswami. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Gokul Taruni Mandala Mahite Gokul Taruni Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Harinishkuta Vrinda Vipineshe Harinishkuta Vrinda Vipineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Vrishabhanudadhi Navashashilekhe Vrishabhanudadhi Navashashilekhe Lalita Sakhi Gunaramita Vishakhe Lalita Sakhi Gunaramita Vishakhe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Karunam Kurumai Karunam Bharite Karunam Kurumai Karunam Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhav Dete. Translation. O Radha, O beloved of Madhava, O you who are worshipped by all the young girls of Gokula, all glories unto you, all glories unto you. You who dressed yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodara's love and attachment for you, O Queen of Vrindavana, which is the pleasure grove of Lord Hari. O new moon that has arisen from the ocean of King Rishabhanu, O friend of Lalita, O you who make Vishakha loyal to you due to your wonderful qualities of friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna. O you who are filled with compassion, O you whose divine characteristics are described by the great sages Sanaka and Sanatana, O Radha, please be merciful to me. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on a chapter and a few verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. And we'll start with the prayers. ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोकैर्भक्तिर्भक्ति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिनी नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्ग्रे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरद्विषे नमः। नमो ब्राह्मण्यदेवाय गोब्राह्मणाहिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhujis and Matajis, Dandat Pranam. Thank you for joining. Welcome to everybody. Hare Krishna, Satyadev Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Praveen Prabhuji, Puja Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Murlidhar Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Leelan Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Josna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Ganga Saraswati, Shravanti, Ganga Shravanti Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Shilpa Mataji, Dandat Pranam. So today we have assembled to discuss chapter 19 of the 6th canto. I hope I'm audible. If I'm not audible, please let me know.
Hare Krishna, Deepa Mataji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Yeah. So yesterday we saw Arvind Prabhu covering the first few verses from 1 to 15 of the 19th chapter. This 19th chapter primarily is about the Pumsavana Vrata. Pumsavana Vrata. So it's more about a ritualistic ceremony, which is being done by Diti. And so we'll just try to understand a little bit of background, though Arvind Prabhu has already covered it, Leelan Prabhu has already covered it. I'll just give a little brief background in what happened in chapter 18. So in chapter 18, we saw that Kashyapa Muni tells Diti about the austere regulations she must follow in order to fulfill the Pumsavana Vrata. So chapter 18 basically covered what are the different austerities that she has to follow. It still did not cover what is the process of the Vrata in itself. So it was very intelligent of Kashyapa Muni because ideally her desire was to have to bear a son who could kill Indra, because she lost her children who were Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and after which she was lamenting their loss, because after a great this one she bore 2 sons, and those also she lost because of Indra with the help of Vishnu. So now, when she went to Kashyapa Muni, first what she did was that she served him very, very pleasingly. And then finally, after getting him under her control, and when she says that you can ask for any benediction, that's when she asks for a son who could kill Indra. So immediately, the devotee that Kashyapa Muni is, he could think intelligently and kind of maneuver her desire into devotional service. He kind of rerouted her desire. And what he did was that he tells her about this Pumsavana Vrata, which ideally is the worship of Lakshmi Narayana, basically. So, and he tells her like what kind of different austerities she has to follow to bear such a son. And because of her desire, intense desire to have a son, she literally actually follows all those very stringent austerities which were meant to be followed for a year. Now, they were so strict that we have gone through them in elaborately in chapter 18. They were very strict. All the vratas, or all the different rules and regulations in order to follow the vrata is very, very practically very difficult for anybody to follow. Of course, it can be followed for a day or a two and probably a few days, a few weeks, but she had to follow them for a year. And she does that. She follows everything almost perfectly, except for a day when she doesn't wash herself before sleeping because of being too tired. Now, Indra has been watching her all along, and Indra actually engages in her service in order to help her to conduct this vrata diligently. But his internal desire is that he was also sure she would go wrong somewhere, and he wanted to witness that mistake. Because Kashyapa Muni also mentions to her that if she kind of goes wrong in even in one process of whatever he mentioned, then she will bear a child who can be friend to Indra. So this is a very wonderful kind of this one, that there is no negativity involved here. It was very difficult to follow. He knew it would be difficult for her to follow. So what he did is that he molded um the benediction in such a way that if she goes wrong in something, then she can bear a son who becomes friend to Indra. Whereas her original intention was itself to kill Indra. So this was very intelligent of Kashyapa Muni who did that. Now, because Indra found fault in her process, what he does is that he is a great yogi. He also has these siddhis. So using the Anima and Laghima siddhi, what he does is that he becomes so small and minute, and he enters Diti's womb, and he breaks the embryo into 7 pieces. Imagine if an embryo is broken into 7 pieces, can the embryo even survive? Obviously, in a normal material parlance, it would be destroyed. The embryo is dead. But here, what happens is that the 7 pieces, each one individually, gains life air and calls out for help. Now, Indra is surprised. What is this? How is this that they're all alive? He makes 7 pieces of each of the 7 pieces. So total 49 pieces is what he makes of the embryo. Even after that, they still call out for his help and say that you are our brother, and please save us, please save us. So he understands that what Diti has followed is actually a Vaishnava ritualistic ceremony, where every principle that she followed was engaged in the worship of Lakshmi and Narayana. The process itself is so powerful and purifying that the result also had to be good. It ought to be good. It can't be anything but bad. Right. So, due to her following all these Vaishnava rituals, each of these 49 pieces have now gained life air, and Indra is so pleased with them that he elevates them to the level of demigods, and now they are called Maruts. So the 18th chapter basically is covering this incredible effects of devotional service. If we see it in a nutshell, it's actually telling us that what happens when you follow devotional service. There is no loss, there is no diminution. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? So we have to see the same thing, and this is a real evidence to that. This vrata is not actually telling us the different things that we need to follow. What can we take from this lesson in our practical life, if we are seeing that, okay, we are following this Krishna consciousness movement of Srila Prabhupada? In that, what is it that we can take? There are a few important lessons. The lesson is not to follow this ritual bit by bit, because yes, it is given by Shastra, and we follow what is given by Shastra, and we follow what is given by Sadhu. But most important is the words of our Acharya, our spiritual master. And our Acharya does not tell us to follow the Pumsavana Vrata. Then what is it that we can carry from this particular chapter? So first and most foremost, we have to understand that the Kashyapa's intelligence, that whatever the wife desired, he's trying to fulfill it, but he's trying to dovetail it into devotional service. So whenever there is anything between the spouses and among in Grihastha life, there could be a lot of desires that one may express to their spouse, and that can be dovetailed into Krishna's service. Is one of the things that we can carry away from this particular chapter. While he quickly realized that he was trapped by the mild behavior of Diti, then who is his wife, what he's doing is he's thoughtfully taking it as an opportunity to engage her in devotional service, and he used her desire itself as the bait for her to fall into the trap of devotional service, in fact. So what happened? What is the result of this Pumsamana Vrata? What do we see in this 1 year that has happened? First and foremost, Diti's consciousness has got purified because she engaged in devotional service. Her intention itself was not to please the Supreme Lord. That was not the intention with which she started. It was to kill Indra. But the process itself is purifying. This is the proof for that. Then what happened to Indra? Indra also was actually in the watch out that he will kill the child in the womb as soon as Diti makes a mistake. That is also a vengeful thought, right? Initially, it does not at least appear to be a pure thought. Now, what is Indra doing here? Indra also gets purified in this process because he served the devotee who is trying to serve the Supreme Lord. So, dasa dasa anu dasa. That's what he's trying to do. So Indra served her and he was purified in his consciousness too. The proof of that, he elevates all the Maruts to the status of demigods and he calls them brothers, which means that all the revengeous attitude, all the hatred actually vanished away at the end of this 1 year. Now, what happened to the children? Obviously, if they are Diti's children, ideally they are supposed to be Daityas, which means they should come under the demoniac category. Their brothers are Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. What do we expect? But the process of devotional service is so purifying that the Maruts were born despite being killed by Indra, made into pieces. Each of them gained a life heir. Each of them gained a life and they became an individual living entity, a Marut. And they were ultimately elevated to the position of a demigod. So that is the result that the children achieved because of Diti following this ritual. Now, what do we see out of this? We actually see if we go to a bird's eye view, what we see is actually the mercy of the Lord. How merciful can Lord be that in everything that any living entity is trying to do, he always sees the good in it, right? He always tries to find the good and tries to reciprocate with that particular good. He ignores all the bad which is there. So, and this always, and whenever we talk about the most, like Lord being the most merciful, all the acharyas, all the gurus always quote one very important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Can anybody tell me which is the verse that they quote? Whenever we talk about the most merciful nature of Krishna, which one do we quote? Hare Krishna. Can anybody guess?
Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpati. Is
Something
that
else. Most merciful. Where did he show his most mercy? Like in one of the pastimes, he's shown the most.
Putana Pasam?
Yes. So which is the verse that often quoted?
Aho
Yes.
Bakiyam Tanaka.
अहोपकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जिघांसयापाय यदप्यसाध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्र्युचितान्ततोऽन्यं तं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेमा. Kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema. He's so dayalu, who's so merciful, who can give Putana the status of a mother, who came to give poison to the child, Krishna, but actually he sucks her life air out. And still, because of her, that small dint of motherly act, and even for a second, when Putana sees Krishna's face while feeding him, she gets the motherly feeling. Just because of that small quality, he gives her the status, liberates her, puts her in a position of a nurse in Goloka. So, what can we call this? Who can be more merciful than Krishna? The same thing we are seeing here, that he, out of his causeless mercy, whoever has approached him in this process of Pumsavana Vrata, where Diti has approached him for a different reason, Indra approached Diti for a different reason, Maruts, who have no say in the process, but everybody got benefited because of the Vaishnava ritualistic ceremony that was being performed. So Krishna has the most merciful heart and he has the purest consciousness. So anybody who takes a step forward, how does Krishna reciprocate with them? He takes 10 steps towards you. All we need to take is only that one step. That's all we need to do. And that's all is the preaching all about. This whole Sankirtana movement is all about. Just take one step towards Krishna and he will take 10 steps towards you. Just hear the holy name for once, and he will make way into your hearts. He will open your doors, all the closed doors. He will do the purification of your heart. Pravishyam Karna Randhrena. We have heard it so many times that he enters through the ear holes of all who are doing the Shravanam, right? One may have the intention, no, I don't want to get purified. They are not even sitting for purification. But it is his mercy that he's actually sitting and he's actually purifying one's heart. How merciful can he be? That's what we have seen in chapter 18. That is a real time example or a practical demonstration of Krishna's mercy. All in all, it can be just a ritualistic ceremony that we are seeing, right? But what do we see ultimately is Krishna's glory in his merciful nature. Now we come to chapter 19, which is our real topic today. I am covering elaborately the introduction itself because there is not much that I can cover in this chapter 19, especially in the last 15 verses that I have been given. There's only one purport, and all of them are verses about the process of the Pumsavana Vrata. And that's the reason why I'm taking the other aspects of the chapter. I hope you all don't mind about this. So yeah, in chapter 19, what's happening? How does it start? Maharaja Parikshit is actually asking Shukdev Goswami about the process of conducting the Pumsavana Vrata. Because chapter 18 covered what? It covered the different austerities that one has to undergo. But chapter 19, he's asking, okay, tell me elaborately, tell me in detail. Now we may wonder, Parikshit Maharaj has only 7 days to live. He is in the 6th canto, which means that already probably about 3.5 days are already over. Now, in this time, why would he be asking about a particular ritual? Any idea? Why is he asking him to tell elaborately how to conduct? Does he want to conduct the vrata? What is in it for him? Any guesses? Any guess is fine. No right or wrong answers.
Maybe it's for the general mankind, Mataji, so that they all can follow, those who are listening.
Okay. Yeah, that is one part. Correct.
May
Yeah.
he want to try something on his own also?
In the 3.5 days that he's got left,
Yeah.
a 1 year process? No. Okay. So why he is asking is actually because Parikshit Maharaj tells in the first verse of this chapter itself. Okay. So as a devotee, he is keen because this was one of the way of pleasing Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because in the first verse, if we see, I'll just show you the first verse. Okay, if we see the first verse, Sri Rajo Vacha, Vrantam Pumsavanam Brahman Bhavata Yad Udiritam Tasya Veditum Ichhami Yena Vishnu Prasidati. What is he saying? Tasya Veditum Ichhami Yena Vishnu Prasidati. Means what? What does it say? Now I want to hear about in detail, for I understand that by observing this vow, one can please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Right? That word itself is the key to this, to his question, why he is asking this. Right? Because this is one of the ways then Supreme Personality of Godhead can be pleased. He is a devotee. All he cares about is how to please Krishna, how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the only thing which matters to him as a devotee. So he knows that anybody, all the conditioned souls in the material world obviously have some desires. They have desires, that's why they are here. If they didn't have desires, they would have been liberated, right? Yes or no? So, because they have these desires, the desires need to be purified. And for purification, they need to engage in devotional service. So, yena kena prakarena, he just wants to engage such conditioned souls who have some desires. Now, Pumsavana Vrata, we may think that is it only for begetting a son or a child? Not necessary. If we see the Falashruti, which is the last verse of this particular chapter, actually tells all the benedictions, all the benefits of doing Pumsavana Vrata, and we will go through that. And you will see that there are so many benefits, so many opulences, and everything, all the peace, prosperity, everything can come by conducting Pumsavana Vrata. But what is Pumsavana Vrata in itself is actually a process of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not just him, basically it is pleasing Lakshmi Narayana, the internal potency of the Lord, the energy and the energetic, the powerful and the power. Shakti and Shaktiman, like Prabhu said yesterday, right? So that is what is the Vrata, and that is what Maharaja Parikshit, even in that few days that are left, he is only thinking about how he can benefit the mankind, how can he bring people into the worship of the Supreme Lord. And at least for this, probably to get these benedictions, people might do things, perform austerities to please the Supreme Lord. That's what he says, Yena Vishnu Prasidati. How can one please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu? So we all know there are different ways of pleasing Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhakti movement, we hear about the 9 different processes: Shravanam, Smaranam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and everything. There are 9 processes. But is he talking about those 9 processes of Bhakti? No, because he is talking about the conditioned souls with normal material desires. So therefore, as per the Vedic injunctions, they have to follow some kind of... So Vedas are primarily for fulfilling material desires only. These are secret codes which have everything hidden inside them, ultimately leads them to Vishnu. Sarvam Sri Krishnarpanamastu. That's what is the ultimate result of all the sacrifices are meant to please Vishnu, ultimately. Right? That's what is the ultimate result of Vedic injunction. But it is an indirect way of achieving Lord's or pleasing the Lord. One does not know directly that acha, they are actually doing for this. They don't know that. They are thinking that they are doing this to fulfill their material desire. But their desire itself is so strong that they are willing to follow each and every regulation to the T. They are ready to do that. And in that process, they will please the Supreme Lord anyway. So that is what we have to understand. So we have to understand Parikshit Maharaj's intent in asking about this vrata in the first place. So Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita that what kind of people come to him. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukriti norjana Arto jigyasuraartharthi gyani cha bharata rishabha. So who are coming to him? Arto, artharthi, gyani, jigyasu, which is the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and who's searching for knowledge. These are the people who usually approach the Supreme Lord. And here, Diti is the one who's distressed. So she is approached. So this was the reason why Parikshit Maharaj inquired about it. So if he is inquiring and asking for elaboration about something in such short time which is available, we have to understand what he means for us. So, and therefore this vrata is also basically included in the 16 samskaras, like Arvind Prabhu mentioned yesterday. He gave us some description of all the 16 samskaras, and we very surprisingly find it, acha, this is also one of the 16 samskaras that is there. So in fact, in this chapter, it will tell us that a woman can fulfill her desire by following the regulated activities, austerities, and penances. So this vrata is basically done for that, right? So also, Rishabdev in the 5th canto has also told us about following austerities and penances. Austerities and penances are a part of any service, be it bhakti, devotion service, or even any of these Vedic injunctions. So, and in this vrata, basically, we're talking about what is that in the 5th canto, in the first shloka itself, 5th chapter, first shloka, Rishabdev also talks about Nayam deho deha bhajamrloke kashtan kamanarhate vidbhujam ye tapo divyam putra kayena sattvam shuddhyet yasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. He's saying, he's telling to his sons that the human form of life is such a rare such a rare body that we have got, that this should not be wasted in arhate. It's not for wasting it in working hard day and night. And with Bhujam, he's comparing them to stool eaters, right? Like even dogs and hogs and all the animals also have the same form of life, where they are working hard from morning to night to fulfill their 4 basic requirements: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So your human form of life should not be wasted in that. Instead, you do tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam. Please purify your hearts with tapo divyam. Tapo divyam means tapasya itself is austerities, penances. Divyam means the transcendental, the spiritual, right? So he is talking to them and telling them that engage yourself in devotion service, which is purifying your heart. So this is another proof that bhakti is purificatory in nature. And one can attain blissful life, transcendental to any material happiness, if he performs these, the tapodivyam. And that is the reason why we understand that any tapasya which engages in the pleasure of Vishnu, Krishna, Lakshmi Narayana, anything of this nature is ultimately purificatory in nature, right? And if we think about our tapasya, we are also doing tapasya, right? All of you are joining. You have many things to do on a Sunday morning. Many people can find many things to do, but you are engaging yourself and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Isn't that a tapasya? You are taking out your time. Every minute is very, very precious. And you are using that in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That is a tapasya. For that matter of fact, even Srila Prabhupada has wonderfully designed the morning program in such a way that everybody at 4 o'clock gets up, does Mangalarti, or visits a temple where Mangalarti is being done. After that, they chant for 2 hours. After that, Shringar Arti. After that, Bhagavatam class. After that, Prashadam. And then go on with your normal daily life. So 4 to 9, if he's creating a morning program, isn't that the tapasya if somebody is doing that every day, day in, day out? And we also try our best to do it every day, right? So that is the tapasya in our bhakti, right? In our devotional life, which we are trying to do. So that is what is the nature of a sacrifice. So sacrifice does not necessarily mean only a yajna where you are offering some oblations or these vratas. They are not the only sacrifices. Bhakti in itself, Lord asks for a lot of sacrifice, especially sacrifice of time and your efforts and endeavor towards achieving and pleasing the Supreme Lord. So, and in fact, we see that this chapter also has come in a very, very unique time, if you actually see, because this chapter talks about when can you start this vrata. It says that one day after Kartika Purnima, and it ends on the Kartika Purnima. We are just a couple of days away from Kartik Purnima, which means that yesterday, if somebody was starting, they would have started it yesterday. So isn't it very, very coincidental or probably transcendentally planned in such a way that this discussion happened? Because obviously yesterday Arvind Prabhu was talking about this chapter only and the Pumsavana Vrata, which means that it has come so very surprisingly at the same time, one day after Purnima. So it's very, very astonishing and surprising to me, at least, that it has happened where and we are in the season of vratas. So somebody has done
Plan of Krishna.
yeah, everything is planned by Krishna. We are just mere instruments. And we are in season of vratas. We see that somebody has done Chaturmas vrata. Of course, like in our process, Prabhupada has never insisted that you do, as long as you do your 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds of chanting, hearing Bhagavatam, and these important instructions given by Prabhupada are followed. That is good enough. But in general, if we see spiritually also or ritually also, there are people who do Chaturmas Vrata. That is over. Yesterday, people would have started Katyayani Vrata. So this is a season of Vratas, or all Vratas are basically conducted to satisfy Krishna. So if you see all the Vratas which are like lined up in these last 4 months, they are ultimately to satisfy Krishna only. So and everything is very, very scientific. And the scientific process of completing this vow kind of culminates on a Kartika Purnima day. It is so wonderful. And what ultimately is the purpose of a vrata? What are we showing? That by doing a vrata, we basically show that we have complete dependency on Krishna. And so there are 2 things there. One is a worship. Worship means only prayer. So one may just pray, okay, give me this benediction, give me a son and everything, and leave, and not do any other endeavor or effort. Will that be fulfilled? No. A vrata means there are 2 things which are coming together. One is the worship which is coming, and the second one is also the endeavor and the efforts that the practitioner is actually undertaking to fulfill the vrata. So that's what we see, because so many austerities that Diti has to follow, or anybody who wants to do a Pumsavana vrata has to follow that, right? So it shows about these 2 things. One is the worship, and second is the effort and endeavor. So that is basically the crux of a vrata. And the same thing that we see that there's a saying actually in one of the books which says that you should work hard, you should pray to God in such a way that everything depends on God, and work in such a way that everything depends on you. So you are the hard work may you should not compromise ki acha I have prayed to Krishna, so Krishna will do my part also. I don't need to chant because Krishna will take care. I have prayed to Krishna. There are some people who are doing that, saying that in SSR and not chanting also. So, but that should not be the case. Where is our endeavor? What does Krishna have to see? On what basis are we gauged? Is based on our effort and endeavor. What are we doing to please Krishna? Right? So that is what this whole vrata can teach us. So prayers which are accompanied by endeavor is always the way the devotees try to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And that's what we try to understand when we are talking about austerities, penances, that yes, austerities and penances exist even in our movement. And this is what it is, our endeavor. Right? So in our the morning program also, like how Prabhupada has brilliantly actually combined all the 5 important factors that Rupa Goswami has mentioned in his the 5 potent practices of devotion service, right? One is association of devotees. So everybody come along, like if it is in temple, everybody is coming together to worship the deities, right? And if we're not going to temple, what are we doing? Every one of us is in some reading call in the morning, some chanting call in the morning. Can we do all that? Have we ever tried doing things by ourselves? We think that, okay, I will do things and it will be done. At least I have tried. I have never found success when I have done things individually by myself. But my progress has been speed tracked whenever I have done things in association. Like for instance, the yatra that we have seen just culminated, and 7 days of yatra when we are in association, we have seen that every day, at least for me, what otherwise takes so much of effort in completing 16 rounds by myself, I used to do 32 rounds even before our morning lecture started at 8 o'clock, because our day used to start at 3 o'clock. We would bath, go for Mangal Aarti in the morning, and then after Mangal Aarti, we are waiting for Shringar Aarti to start, and we are like all the time, we are all the time chanting in association. And when you see so many people around you doing it, everything is speed tracked and everything is effortless. That's what Prabhupada actually planned for us when he is doing all this. So association of devotees that's the reason why he's always emphasized on the association of devotees, right? And then hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Dhamvas. So we may wonder, how do we do Dhamvas every morning? Obviously, when we are hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam, our consciousness is always in the Dham, where Krishna has performed his pastimes, right? Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. And Krishna is non-different from his dham also, non-different from his paraphernalia. So when we are with Krishna, we are in his dham itself. So deity worship and chanting of holy names. These were the 5 potent forms that Rupa Goswami mentioned. And we see that all the 5 are achieved just by the morning program. Right? So that is the greatness of the sacrifices that we are doing. Just by sacrificing those 5 hours in the morning, we can achieve all these 5 potent forms. And how does it help? What happens if we do these 5 things? Obviously, they invoke bhava. Someday, in some lifetime, we will get the bhava and ultimately probably achieve prema. There is no probability that there is no probably. Actually, we will achieve prema. Whether we achieve in this lifetime or not, that depends on how sincere we are in our practices and how merciful our spiritual master is, right? But otherwise, the process itself is meant for that purification so that one day we can reach there. That is the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate destination, and that is the process itself. So that is what the sacrifices we are doing in the morning means, right? So now we'll actually proceed to the chapter. We will just quickly go through each verse and the translation. There are no purports, only one small purport is there. So I will quickly cover that in order to save your time. So I had to start with verse 15. Yes. इत्यभीष्टुय वरदं श्रीनिवासं श्रिया सह तन्निस्सार्योपहरणं दत्त्वा च मनम् अर्चयेत्. Sri Shukdev Goswami continued, thus one should worship Lord Vishnu, who is known as Srinivasa, along with Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, by offering prayers according to the process mentioned above. After removing all the paraphernalia of worship, one should offer them water to wash their hands and mouths, and then one should worship them again. So the entire thing is only about the process. Tata stuvita stotrena bhakti pravena chetasa yagyochistam avaghraya punar abhyarchayetharim. Thereafter, with devotion and humility, one should offer prayers to the Lord and Mother Lakshmi. Then one should smell the remnants of the food offered and then again worship the Lord and Lakshmi ji. Patim cha paraya bhaktya महापुरुषचेतसा प्रियैस्तैस्तैर उपनमेत् प्रेमशीला स्वयं पति बिभ्र्यात् सर्वकर्माणि पत्न्या उच्चावचानि च. Accepting her husband as the representative of the Supreme Person, a wife should worship him with unalloyed devotion by offering him prasada. The husband, being very pleased with his wife, should engage himself in the affairs of his family. The family relationship of husband and wife should be established spiritually according to the process mentioned above. Kritam ekatarenapi dampatyorubayorapi patnyam kuryad anarhayam patir etat samahita. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Between the husband and wife, one person is sufficient to execute this devotion service. Because of their good relationship, both of them will enjoy the result. Therefore, if the wife is unable to execute this process, the husband should carefully do so, and the faithful wife will share the result. Purport. The relationship between husband and wife is firmly established when the wife is faithful and the husband sincere. Then even if the wife, being weaker, is unable to execute devotion service with her husband, if she is chaste and sincere, she shares half of her husband's activities. Vishnurvratam idam bibhran na vihanyat kathanchana vipran striyo viravati sragandha balimandanai archedahar ahar bhaktya devam niyamam astita udvasya devam svethamni tanniveditam adhyadatma vishuddhyartham sarvakama samriddhaye. Translation: one should accept this Vishnu Vrata, which is vow in devotional service, and should not deviate from its execution to engage in anything else. By offering the remnants of prasada, flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, and ornaments, one should daily worship the Brahmanas and worship women who peacefully live with their husbands and children. Every day, the wife must continue following the regulative principles to worship Lord Vishnu with great devotion. Thereafter, Lord Vishnu should be laid in his bed, and then one should take prasada. In this way, husband and wife will be purified and will have all their desires fulfilled. Etena puja vidhina masan dvadashahayanam nitvatho Paramit Sadhvi Kartike Charame Hani. The chaste wife must perform such devotional service continuously for 1 year. After 1 year passes, she should fast on the full moon day in the month of Kartika, October-November. Swabhutepa upasprishya Krishnam abhyarcha purvayavat payashritena juhuyaj charuna sahasarpisha Pakayagnya vidhanena dvadashaivahuti pati. On the morning of the next day, one should wash oneself and offer, after worshipping Lord Krishna as before, one should cook as one cooks for festivals as stated in Grihya Sutras. Sweet rice should be cooked with ghee, and with this preparation, the husband should offer oblations to the fire 12 times. Ashisha Shirasadaya Dvijay Pritai Samirita Pranamya Shirasa Bhaktya Bhunjita Tad Anugyaya. Thereafter, he should satisfy the Brahmanas. When the satisfied Brahmanas bestow their blessings, he should devotedly offer them respectful obeisances with his head, and with their permission, he should take prasada. Acharyamagratah kritva vagyatah saha bandhubhi datyat patnyai charuh shesham suprajastvam sasaubhagam. Before taking his meal, the husband must first seat the Acharya comfortably, and along with his relatives and friends should control his speech and offer prasada to the Guru. Then the wife should eat the remnants of the oblation of sweet rice cooked with ghee. Eating the remnants ensures a learned, devoted son and all good fortune. Etat charitva vidhivat pratam vibhor abhipsitartham labhati pumaniha stri chaitadasthaya labheta saubhagam shriyam prajam jiva patim yashogriham. If this vow or ritualistic ceremony is observed according to the description of Shastra, even in this life, a man will be able to achieve all the benedictions he desires from the Lord. A wife who performs this ritualistic ceremony will surely receive good fortune, opulence, sons, and a long-living husband, a good reputation, and a good home. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So like I earlier mentioned that this vrata is not only for getting a son, but these are all the byproducts. In Bengal, even today, if a woman lives for a long time with her husband, she is considered very fortunate. A woman generally desires a good husband, good children, good home, prosperity, opulence, and so on. As recommended in this verse, a woman will receive all these desirable benedictions, and a man will also be able to receive all benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, by performing this particular type of vrata, a man and a woman in Krishna consciousness will be happy in this material world, and because of being Krishna conscious, they will be promoted to the spiritual world. So here it's also indirectly indicating one small thing, that women usually desire these things: good husband, good children, good home, prosperity, opulence, and so on. And man is the one who usually, not usually, but ideally is supposed to engage in this devotional service and the spiritual practices so that he can take the entire family along. So that when the wife is taking good care of the husband, the children, and the home, when everything is being taken care of, there is so much minimum the man has to be worried about when it comes to the household. And therefore, he can fully concentrate on the spiritual practices. And that is his duty, ideally, for him to take the entire family along. That's how the responsibilities have been divided by the Supreme Lord also. So yes, and that is also one of the reasons why the woman would always want these things. But sometimes, and that also leads to bodily attachments. The ideal thing is that if everything is done in the consciousness that I am serving the husband who is representative of the Supreme Lord himself. So she is serving the Supreme Lord in that way. She is doing everything so that husband can perfectly serve the Supreme Lord. That everything is with Krishna in the center and not with our desires in the center. So that is a very important thing that we can make out from this purport. And this is the last verse. Kanya cha vindeta samagra lakshanam patim tvavira hatakil bisham gatim mrita prajajiva suta dhaneshwari sudurbhagaso bhagarupamagyam vidded virupa viruja vimuchyate ya amaya vindriya kalyadeham etat pathanabhyudaye cha karmani ananta tripti pitridevatanam tushta prayachanti samasta kaman homavasane hutabhuk shri harishcha rajan mahanmarutam janma punyam diter vratam cha bhibitam mahatte So this basically gives us the Falashruti of the chapter and of the Vrata itself. So what is it saying? Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation and purport. If an unmarried girl observes this vrata, she will be able to get a very good husband. If a woman who is avira, who has no husband or son, executes this ritualistic ceremony, she can be promoted to the spiritual world. A woman whose children have died after birth can get a child with a long duration of life and also become very fortunate in possessing wealth. If a woman is unfortunate, she will become fortunate. And if ugly, she will become beautiful. By observing this vrata, a deceased man can gain relief from his disease and have an able body with which to work. If one recites this narration while offering oblations to the pitas and demigods, especially during the Shraddha ceremony, the demigods and inhabitants of Pitriloka will be extremely pleased with him and bestow upon him the fulfillment of all desires. After one performs this ritualistic ceremony, Lord Vishnu and his wife Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, are very pleased with him. O King Parikshit, now I have completely described how Diti performed this ceremony and had good children, the Maruts, and a happy life. I have tried to explain this to you as elaborately as possible. Purport. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Performing the Pumsavanam Ritualistic Ceremony, and this also marks the end of 6th canto. Right? So that is the end of the chapter. But what do we learn from this chapter again? Like if we have to summarize, like as people in the movement of Harinam Sankirtan, in the Krishna consciousness movement, what are the takeaways for us? Does it mean that we have to follow this vrata if we have to beget a son? So for that is the reason why we have Guru and we have our Acharyas, right? So what did Prabhupada actually say? Did he anytime mention that, yes, if you want a son, you will need to do Pumsavana Vrata? Is there any mention of that anywhere? What did Prabhupada mention? Hare Krishna. Anybody can respond?
Hare Krishna, Mataji,
ma-
there is,
More round.
yeah, go Satyadev Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji, you can tell. I'll also ask Satyadev Prabhu.
So the question is what Prabhupada said about begetting a son, right? There was no mention about following a particular vrata, but just follow Harinam Sankirtan and do devotional service in the mood of the servant of the Lord, and just
Yeah.
follow the yoga.
Yes. And also he mentioned about Garbhadhan Samskar.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have seen mention of Garbhadhan Samskar in many places, but not of Pumsavana Vrata.
Right.
What
Yes,
we
sir.
need to follow is what our Acharya has given. Of course, the Shastra is prescribing this, but Acharya's role, based on time, place, circumstance, Acharyas always kind of simplify the processes for us. And he's laid out a very simple process for grihasthas on how do we conduct our daily life. And that's why he's given us those processes, the morning program. And if one wants to beget a child, then they have to take, of course, it specifically does not mention that one has to beget a son or anything like that. But for bearing any child, irrespective of gender, one must, if they want a Krishna conscious child, obviously has to go through the Garbhadhan Samskar, where he's laid out certain principles that, okay, that one must chant 50 rounds on the day that they want to conceive and things like that. So they are there. That ideally what happens is that somewhere I was hearing in one of the lectures that there was somebody who actually tried it, and 50 rounds of chanting, once they did, they were so much in bliss of the holy name itself. The chanting itself was so blissful after 50 rounds of chanting that one does not have any interest for any bodily pleasure anymore, and the consciousness is completely in Krishna. So that is also could be the reason that why the Acharya has has given a certain number to everything. Why 16? Why not 20? Why not 25? Acharya has thought very carefully about everything, that 2 hours out of 24 hours, if one dedicates, and rest of the time dedicated to the regular affairs and also of the preaching movement. Ours is a Sankirtana movement, ours is a preaching movement, and one must engage in preaching also. If one only keeps chanting, Satatam Kirtayantomam is what Krishna has mentioned. But if one only engages in sitting and only chanting, then the preaching will not happen. The movement will not progress. And Krishna Nam will not be heard in every nook and corner of the world like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired. So that is also a thing. That is the reason why if Acharya has given something, everything is very, very scientific. And he has already done a lot of thinking and laid down the processes. In that, we don't have to put our own minute sparrow-like brain and again do any concoction. And okay, Prabhupada didn't mention that, but maybe we have to follow this. No, we just follow what Prabhupada has given. That is the basic principle. Yes, Satyadev Prabhu, you wanted to add something? Hare Krishna. Okay. So here the obvious question is, should we be doing this vrata? Yeah, should we be doing this vrata? Then that's the reason why Guru is there, Shastra is there. So from Guru, we learn how to apply the Shastra in our life. So that's what Prabhupada has never mentioned about this vrata. Prabhupada told us what to do to have good children, and that is Garbhadhan Samskar. And there are many nice things we can learn from this ritual. Okay, is there any learning from this chapter? Yes, definitely there is a lot of learning from this chapter. Because it is talking about how one must engage in devotional service without any deviation. So how strictly Diti had to follow, and the Vrata's guidelines itself are saying that you cannot be deviated. The austerities in the previous chapter also mentioned like how you have to be clean every day. What are the different things you need to do, how you need to only accept the remnants of the Lord's mercy, which is the prasada. You have to accept only the prasada and nothing else. Like how a woman should treat her husband as a representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead, how the husband should be sincere in performing his duties and his responsibilities, and both of them can congenially actually come together to take care of the entire household and complement each other in the activities and not compete with each other, right? So how one should worship the brahmanas, how one should respect the gurus, the spiritual masters, because it talks about how the prasada is first offered to the guru and then how the guru should be seated in the house, and everything it talks about, everything in which way the woman can actually live peacefully. Like it also talks about how women should serve other women who are living peacefully with their husbands and children. So all these are wonderful takeaways from this chapter also, right? So so therefore those important inferences also means that, okay, does it mean that okay, husband is responsible for all the spiritual duties, so okay, husband will chant on my behalf and I will not chant? It's not like that. This doesn't mean that husband chants and wife will get the benefit of the same. Chanting is every individual jiva's dharma. It is our natural service to Krishna. That is our duty. The soul does not have a gender. So therefore, every one of us have to do our basic, this basic requirements have to be fulfilled what acharyas have given. So definitely in all other things where if suppose the women are weaker and it is difficult for them to do certain activities which engage a lot of let's say some Herculean tasks like be it book distribution or be it deity worship. Not all women can do it every day. We can't do. There are certain limitations for us also, bodily limitations. So this doesn't mean that husband will chant and we get the benefit. This only applies to certain aspects of the devotion service. And yes, definitely, whatever he does, and if the wife is 100% supporting and is very humbly serving the husband and the children, that doesn't, and she's not able to engage her time in all these activities also, it means that she will still get the benefit because she has done her duties well. That's what this indicates. And therefore good association helps. But chanting we must do our own. So association is not just association outside. Even a husband and wife together is an association. They are encouraging each other in their spiritual duties. So that also is an association. And that's how the woman benefits with the association of her husband, right? But at the same time, chanting is our own, right? Deity worship. Also, this chapter talks about wonderfully about how the deity worship is done. Okay. The best thing in our movement, what Prabhupada has given is that the deities, best thing is to do the worship in the temple because they will not do any seva aparadh. And everything will be done perfectly. Everything will be done on time, at the right time, in the right place, with the right ingredients, and in the right consciousness. Everything is done in the temple. The easiest thing we can do is be a part of that. If we really want to serve the deities at home, I was hearing in one lecture is that the first thing is to get God Nitai deities and engage in their sincere service. So in that lecture, I think it was by Sankarshan Adhikari Prabhu, or Sankarshan Adhikari Maharaj, I think. Yeah, Maharaj. And he was mentioning that when you start, you have to start with the God Nitai deities. And one should not like simply get Radha Krishna deities unless and until they are like second initiated and are very sincere in their deity worship practices. Because the reason why he's quoting is also because like if they are that advanced, only then they can avoid the seva aparadhs. The more advanced your worship is, needs that much advancement in your practices also. That is the reason why he was mentioning. So I heard this, I thought I would share. But primarily one should serve the God Nitai deities. So, and equally important is to engage in serving the Vaishnavas also very, very diligently. And that's what this talks about. A couple of verses dedicated to serving the Guru, partaking the prasada of the Guru, and things like that in this particular chapter. Right? Because what Prabhupada said, that if we take prasadam, that pleases Prabhupada. If we take prasadam, that pleases our spiritual master. So by doing our sincere services at home and our practices at home also, we can please Prabhupada and spiritual master. Because the simple thing is that only eat prasadam. So, and another thing we can also do is engaging our relatives and friends. So that is what we can get inspiration from this chapter, is that how it talked about serving other families, serving other women, brahmanas and everything. What does it mean? Basically, what we can, in our practical life, what we can apply is that we engage our relatives, friends, and the community where we are living. Like every one of us is trying to do something in the SSR, which are happening in the communities. So what is the opportunity that we have there? We can engage in serving those people who are coming to attend the class, right? So that is also a service. And when we engage in serving them, then our spiritual master is pleased. Our Acharya is pleased. And all the line of Acharyas are pleased when we are trying to bring somebody else closer to Krishna, bring them and motivate them, encourage them in Krishna consciousness, right? So bringing them to Krishna consciousness is an activity which pleases our Acharyas the most. And that is the whole purpose of the Harinam Sankirtan movement, which is started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is what he always wanted. So all the benedictions which are mentioned in Pumsavana Vrata can be achieved by simply performing Harinam Sankirtan. People come together and they chant, and that is what we can take from this particular chapter. So that concludes my class today. Is there any question that I can answer? If I have made many mistakes, I know myself. Please forgive me because we get very rare opportunities to speak about Bhagavatam. And I'm very fortunate, and I'm very, very grateful and thankful to Leelanand Prabhu that he's giving us the opportunity and chosen me also as one of the speakers for the Bhagavatam class. I'm really grateful to Leelanand Prabhu and Anu Mataji for considering me worthy of taking speaking a few words. But I'm sure I have made a lot of mistakes, so kindly please forgive me for whatever mistakes I have made. And if there are any questions that I can answer, I will try to answer if it is within my understanding. And I'll get back in case it is outside my understanding. So please feel free to ask questions.
Hare Krishna, Deepa Mataji, have one question.
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, I was reading this text 15. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, thus one should worship Lord Vishnu, who is known as Srinivasa, along with Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, by offering prayers according to the process mentioned above. After removing all the paraphernalia of worship, one should offer them water to wash their hands and mouth, and then one should worship them again. So my question is, from childhood, my mom has told me that we have to perform this Varalakshmi Vratam, that is to have a good husband. And after you get married, then it's for the well-being of your husband and children. And procedurally, you follow the same process of getting up, washing your body and all the paraphernalia. You use your worshipping goddess Lakshmi along with Vishnu. So my question is, but however, that is observed in a different month. It is not in November, December time, like they have mentioned. And there also they tell a story why it has to be mentioned, something about Charumati, one devotee, all that they mention. So what do you think, like these different names, is it a different name of this Pumsavana Vrata? Or do you think it's an altogether different Vrata? Will it have any effect? I've been doing this for the past 25 years. So I was just wondering if it's as per the Shastras or what to take from it.
No, definitely, Mataji, Pumsavana Vrata is different for Varalakshmi Vrata, because Varalakshmi Vrata is the austerity only for one day, of at least whatever I have understood after reading the chapter. Pumsavana Vrata is a Vrata you have to do, you have to follow the rules and regulations for one whole year. From one day after Kartika Purnima to the Kartika Purnima of the next year, right? So from my general understanding of what I can make out, definitely it is a different Vrata. So Varalakshmi Vrata. Now, these things we have to, I will tell based on what I have understood so far in my reading, and also certain things that I had asked Leelanand Prabhu also earlier about Varalakshmi Vratam. So I will answer based on both. So one is that we have to understand that all the rituals which are given, which are generationally coming to us, okay, the origin lies with the Vedas. And what are Vedas? Vedas are basically like I mentioned, that secret codes of conduct. So when Lord was sending us into the when we desired to be away from the Lord, or not really away from the Lord, but primarily we wanted to enjoy like the Lord, He created a material universe for us. He created all the elements that we required. He did this entire creation of this material world, which takes about 1/4 of the entire universe, right? 3/4 of it is basically the spiritual world, 1/4 is the material world. Now, these elements exist only in the material world. So while He sent us here, He also sent us along with a manual. of how to function. Like we get a manual when we buy any of the electronic items, like, or any of the items. Usually you have a manual, even for the fridge, even for a pressure cooker, you have a manual, or even for a laptop, you have a manual, phone, you have a manual. So there are manuals for everything, how to use, how best to use. Now it's a different thing. We don't read the manual, we try to apply our own knowledge and we do certain things. But if we read the manual and utilize, let's say in our phone, there are so many features which we don't know about. But if we read the manual, we'll know about all the features and we'll know when to apply each feature where. Yes or no? So similarly, we have come with a manual, and the manual are the Vedas. And the Vedas tell us how a human being has to conduct himself or herself. So basically, how the jiva has to conduct self so that one day they can return back to Krishna. So we are coming from there. We are coming for an excursion. Basically, we are not coming here for a permanent settlement. And one day we have to go back. How do we go back, and how do we get that ticket to go back? Is basically the Vedas, the process that we follow. Now, why Vedas were sent? Because obviously we are coming with material desires. Our desires need to be fulfilled. One way is fulfilling the desires, like how we read in Bhakti Shastri, that if suppose like one who fulfills all his desires without any rules and regulations, so only bothers about fulfilling desires, what is that person called? It's called a karmi. A karmi is one who does not care about any rules or regulations or anything, right? So that is a karmi. So obviously the result that a karmi will get is only entanglement into the cycle of birth and death again and again, again and again. But when it comes to a human, to a person who has been awarded a human form of life, must engage in Vedic injunctions, because that gives you a regulated way of life. And when it comes to Vedas and the processes which are given, it is very important that everything has to be followed in exactly the same way as mentioned in the Vedas itself. The rituals have to be exactly done the same way. And the ingredients have to be that pure, and the person's consciousness also has to be pure. Of my understanding, at least in Kali Yuga, neither do we have pure ingredients nor the pure consciousness, nor are we following exactly, because we ourselves have not read what is there originally in the Vedas of a particular ritual. Like if this Varalakshmi Vratam has come, I don't know the origin, but I'm assuming that it must have come from the Vedas only. But I am 100% sure that we have shortcutted a lot of things. Because we used to see that earlier, my mom's book, when she used to do the Vratam, it used to be so thick. But now we are seeing that the thin paper foil books of some 8 pages or 4 pages are coming to us. And this is how you do the Vrata. And I'm 100% sure we are not following to the T. So therefore, the consciousness definitely matters. So my point of what I'm trying to tell ultimately is that why we are doing a particular ritual is primarily to fulfill some of our material desire. Yes, that time, even parents wanted children to have, or their daughters to have, the ideal husband, a happy married life and everything. So they would train. So everybody is trained in a way that one is following certain regulations, regulated way of life to fulfill their material desire. None of these rituals actually told us that you are doing this to please Vishnu and Lakshmi together, so that we can become or we can go to them. Have anybody told us about any of the rituals like that? No. Because the inherent condition of a conditioned soul itself is that the material desires. The indirect way of doing that is actually the Vedas are leading our desires slowly and steadily towards the Supreme Lord. So Varalakshmi Vratam also, if originally conducted according to the rituals as mentioned in the Vedas, would give the real purpose. But today we see that everybody is doing the Varalakshmi Vratam, but what is the consciousness? Sometimes it is more about the display of how well I have decorated my altar or my Varalakshmi Devi, how beautiful it is looking, or how beautiful is are my collection of saris, and who is dressing up how well. And that's what I have observed, I'm not saying that everybody is doing the same way. Definitely, there would be somebody who's doing very, very sincerely. There would be a fraction of people. Everybody cannot be the same. But most of the times, this is what I have seen. And so therefore, the consciousness definitely matters. Today, people don't even know why they are doing a particular vrata and for what reason. So therefore, Vedic, when we talk about Vedic rituals and Vedic way of life, then we should exactly follow what is written in Vedas, which means that we have to follow exactly step by step with that sincere austerity and the penances that they are talking about. If they are talking about that it has to be done with you should be fasting and you should be doing with this ingredients, means those ingredients only, with the honey collected from the beehives, with the milk collected from the cow, which you only are taking, and things like that. That would be the real this one, but not with our adulterated products and everything. I don't know if I answered your question or not, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. So, to summarize,
It is best that we follow what Prabhupada has actually mentioned about Bhagavata Dharma instead of worrying about the Vedic rituals, because Bhagavata Dharma is not really about following these rituals to the T. But Prabhupada has actually made life very easy for us by saying that you do the 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles, follow the instructions of your guru, and that is good enough. And he's not mentioned you have to do this, everybody has to do the deity worship, everybody has to have the deities at home. He's not given any such conditions. So we have to focus on things, and that will actually give us the ultimate result also. Everything else is a byproduct. If it means that in my life a certain opulence is needed so that I can conduct my Bhagavad Dharma properly. So if the Lord sees that a particular devotee is getting too much engrossed in his material attachments and with his opulence or wealth, he will take it away. But if he also sees that a devotee is disturbed with for the daily bread and butter and is not able to conduct the normal daily activities sincerely, and that is affecting the spiritual life, Lord also provides that, so that one does not have to worry about these things and actually engage fully in devotion. So it is for us to understand why we are getting a certain opulence and for what purpose, and automatically engage those in Krishna's service, engage them in taking care of our household responsibilities, but ultimately not miss out on our basic Bhagavata Dharma that Prabhupada is talking about. So we have to follow the Bhagavad Dharma and not really worry about the Vedic rituals, is what I have understood by my reading. Yes, Mataji,
Mataji.
summarize.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. So it might come from the Vedas, but then that's not what is prescribed to us. So we need to think carefully whether we do really want to follow it or not.
And we should also not displease our family members. So obviously we're a part of family. They expect us to do certain injunctions. This is what Leelan Prabhu had told me once, that we are a part of family. Anu Mataji also, I had asked multiple times about Varalakshmi Pratam. So it is very important that when you're a part of family, you don't disturb the harmony of it. No, I will not do. Now I am in Bhagavad Dharma. That is not the intent. We still follow everything. But in our mind, we know that what we need to ask. Even if we ask him, Varalakshmi, Vratam we are doing, what is the intent we are doing it with? Please engage me in service of Vishnu. Right? In service of Krishna, please purify my consciousness so that I can do my bhakti properly, so that I can actually get better in my, at best we can ask, because she is constantly engaged in serving the lotus feet of the Lord.
Right.
What can we ask? What can she give us better than that? Is how to engage. Please engage me in service of the Lord. Please make me capable of doing that, because we are right now not capable of engaging in service of the Lord. So make me capable. That's what we can ask. We don't need to tell everybody else what we are asking. Externally, we can still appear that we are doing, and because we are doing with this intent, we will also do that puja so much nicely, so much wonderfully, because our intent is not to show our the beautiful decorations or anything. But when we are doing it so sincerely and lovingly, automatically everything will turn out to be beautiful. So people can come in whatever consciousness they want. They want to come and see whatever they want. That is fine. What matters is what was in our heart. What did we do the puja with the intent? So we should definitely do everything that our family expects us to do. But at the same time, our intention should ultimately be to what we should ask is primarily about engagement and better engagement and better purification for the engagement in bhakti.
This is excellent point.
Thank you, Mataji.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, I usually take a long time when a question comes, but I hope I'm answering the question correctly.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mataji, here when you summarized that the whole thing earlier, like Kashyapa Muni, even though Diti, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she has the intention of killing. She want to have get a son who
Son.
can kill
Mm.
Indra. But what Kashyapa Muni said is he has given her 1 year long vrata, thinking that okay she may get a son, but he is in a way he is trying to convert her into a more austeric and more even though it's a ritualistic, but still it will
He's
take her
basically
to
engaging her in devotional service because this is
correct.
vrata to please Supreme
Yeah.
Lord.
So that I mean, can we also do the same thing when we are trying to, either in the preaching way or okay, whether to tell that so to do 16 rounds and that way, if you follow these things, maybe you will get a good, good future or something like that. Can we say that those who are more of materialistic person, can we tell these things or can we ask them to do kind of vrata and which will engage them more, Suddha Sattvic and Suddha Sattvic way? Like how,
Hmm.
I don't know, like can we tell the
See,
same
what
thing?
I don't know. I don't think it is right for us to tell ki if you do this, you will get this.
Ah,
Because like I told you, if somebody is attached very much, it depends. It is the equation between Lord and the Jiva Prabhuji. Because if somebody has a lot of opulence, let's say, but his desire is not fulfilled and he wants more and more opulence, let's say, but he is too attached to the opulences also, and that attachment and that hankering for acquiring more and more is actually keeping him away from devotional service, let's say. What will Krishna do? Obviously take away his opulence, right? And one day, I mean, I'm not saying that that's a default. I'm just saying that there's a possibility that will happen. That is an equation between the Lord and because Lord will see what is required for a jiva to come closer to him. Sometimes difficulties, like why is Kunti Maharani asking for more and more difficulties? Because in that she can have more remembrance of Krishna, right? Kamsa constantly remembered Krishna out of fear, right? So it depends on each individual. So we are nobody to say if you do this, you will get opulence. We cannot say that. But what I usually, I personally believe 100% on this. And I also say, like, whenever if somebody asks me a question, is that if really you need something to fulfill your duties. So one is that we have to sincerely do our part in doing our 16 rounds and our 4 regulative principles, whatever the instructions we are given, that we have to do anyways. Okay, if we are sincere, our intention and our desire is we want to do this sincerely. Okay, so now opulence or like some wealth, we are having a financial crunch or something like that, that is stopping us from this. So my personal experience and belief also is that if we do this sincerely, what is required for you is already provided. And why does that happen? The Lord is the supreme creator. He is the maintainer, right? He has created this entire creation. All the gold mines, all the diamond mines that we are seeing. So what is wealth, opulence ultimately? Is somebody having certain assets, right? And what is the source of those assets? What is the source of the wealth? Is something which has come out of this material world only, right? Somebody
correct.
has some assets or some gold or some diamonds or whatever. All that has come from this material world only. But who's the creator of that?
Lord.
The Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
The Supreme Lord is so powerful. He has empowered this material universe with so many assets.
Hmm.
For him, if he wants his part and parcel, that is me, who is sincerely seeking to come to him,
Hmm.
and in the process knows that is struggling, will it be very difficult for the Lord to take care of this chutku requirement of the
True.
little money that I need to take care of my responsibilities well? Is it very difficult for the Lord?
No,
For the
not
one
at
who
all.
has created all the gold mines and diamond mines?
Not at all, ma'am.
Not at all.
Hmm.
So I have to believe 100% in that. For
Hmm.
the Lord, taking care of my minuscule requirement is nothing for the Lord.
Hmm.
Maybe I require some lakhs, or maybe let's say even some crores, so that all my retirement is taken care of, all my responsibilities are taken care of. Let's say that today I want to retire.
Hmm.
And for that, which means what? If I want to retire, doesn't mean I sit at home and food will come to me, right? I have to have a corpus which is ready, which takes care of all my living expenses till I am living. Let's say I'm living till 85, 90. Everything has to be taken care of until then.
Correct.
It may be a few crores. If my sincere desire is that I want to retire so that I can serve the Lord well, I want to engage myself more in service, more sincerely. I want to better my chanting, and that's what I want to do. If that is the sincere desire, Lord is sitting in our heart as Paramatma. Is it very difficult for him to take care of
Sanction that.
fewer basic requirements? We just have to have the faith.
Yeah, correct.
And that is my personal experience also.
Hmm.
That if I sincerely desire, I'm not desiring here that, okay, Devda nakiche konni double ichese so that I can take it. I'm not even saying that.
Hmm.
I am just sincerely doing what I have to do, what Prabhupada has told me to do. Then
Hmm.
Lord knows what is required for this person, what is needed to create some peaceful atmosphere in her family. Quietly, he takes care of everything.
Hmm. No, Mataji, my question was those who are really having some
We should
problem.
not tell them, Prabhuji.
Uh,
We should not tell them.
okay.
We should just tell them that if you do this sincerely, whatever you require for you to sincerely practice, and
Hmm.
if these things are disturbing you in the process of your service,
Hmm.
whatever is disturbing you, Lord is there to take care.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
So if it is wealth that is disturbing you, so wealth anedi is not about more and more నాకు ఇన్ని ఇల్లులు కావాలి అనుకుంటే ఇంకా Lord will not give.
Hmm.
రైట్. వాళ్ళ డెఫినిషన్ మనతో చాలా డిఫరెంట్ అవ్వచ్చు. మనము కొన్ని ఏళ్ళు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఒక కొత్త అతను ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి ఐ వాంట్ అంటే రేపు ఆయనకి సపోజ్ ఏదో డెట్ లోకి వెళ్ళిపోయాడు, ఏదో దెబ్బ కొట్టింది, ఆయన వచ్చి మిమ్మల్ని అడిగితే ఏం చేస్తారు అప్పుడు? Will you say? You said, and it is a wrong name to the movement also, because Prabhupada never said that we have to say like this. Prabhupada never said to anybody. ఎప్పుడు కూడా we should not beat around the bush. Our job,
అంటే వాళ్ళకి మరి ఫెయిత్ ఇంప్రూవ్ చేయాలంటే
that is not our business.
Hmm.
They have come because they were inspired by Krishna to come and attend. That's all.
Okay.
Our role is only to do what our acharyas expect us to do, is to give Krishna, nothing else.
Hmm.
Our role is to give Krishna only. And if they have come, improving their faith is not our business. That is the equation between them and the Lord. If there is something by our conduct, by our service to them, by how much we can put ourselves down and try to be humbly serving them and not show attitudes to them, okay, one day that will please them. We just have to sincerely serve them. We have to help them in every way, but we should not beat around the bush and give them wrong ideas. That ila cheste alla vastundi.
Hmm.
If that is what is required for you to improve your this one, that is the equation between you and Krishna will definitely provide. If that is what is stopping you, ani cheppachu manam.
Okay.
That is completely a personal. Every jiva has a personal equation with the Lord.
Correct.
We are mere instruments. We are not even, we are thinking we are the doers. We are not even the doers. Krishna just placed us there so that some of the more people can get to know about him. How much they progress, again, depends on their sincerity and their thought process. One is the introduction. Everybody who gets introduced to the thing need not become a bhakta.
Correct.
And if they have got only this much, oka touch chesi వెళ్ళిపోయింది అంటే that is a agyata sukriti that they have got. They can take it forward from there, or it may carry forward for their another life, because they would have come, they would have heard something about Krishna, they would have eaten prasadam. అది వాళ్ళకి లైఫ్ టైం ఆ అజ్ఞాత సుకృతి, ఆ క్రెడిట్ అక్కడ ఉంటుంది. It will
Only-
lead them to more bhakti, whether in this lifetime or next, that depends on them.
Only time can solve that.
Only time can solve that.
Okay.
We
okay.
are nobody to solve. We are nobody actually. We are not the doers at all. We should remember that.
Okay. I mean, we should not be like Kashyapa Muni.
Kashyapa Muni is doing that for his wife. And
Ah,
he is a very intelligent person. He is also a spiritual master for her. He is the representation of Supreme Personality of Godhead for her. What he
okay.
did is right for his wife. He had to take her yena kena prakarena.
Ah,
And he's not telling anything wrong. He's not telling her do this. What he's telling her is that if you do this, then you will get, of course, he's saying that you will get opulences, but he's completely engaged her in the process. More than the result, he made her focus on the process.
Okay.
ఇది చేయి, ఇలా చేయి, ఇలా చేయి, ఇది చేయొద్దు, ఇది చేయొద్దు, ఇది చేయొద్దు. And అది చేయొద్దు అంటే అది చేస్తే ఏమొస్తుంది? You will get a son who is friend of Indra. Is there anything wrong with that? Indra
Nothing
is
wrong.
also not an ordinary person. Indra is a devotee.
Yeah, correct.
So, which means a friend of Indra will also be a devotee. So, Anitlo, he is actually very intelligently Chakravyuham వేశారు అన్నమాట.
Correct. Okay. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Have I answered your question? I don't know.
No. Yes, Mataji, you had it. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
I am so grateful that all of you are asking questions even in this kind of a chapter. Thank you. Sir.
Your lecture is very excellent, Mataji.
Thank you. All
Regarding
glories to
Krishna's
Krishna.
mercy, hello, Hare Krishna Mataji. Regarding Krishna's mercy, you have to first the Putana verse. It is from Bhagavatam Mataji.
Ahobakiyam.
It is in which canto, chapter and quote.
Ahobakiyam, Prabhuji. Ahobakiyam, actually, I think the first canto, third chapter, 28th shloka, na? Okasari chustanu oka nimisham.
Okay.
Ahobakiyam mustanaka. Third canto, second chapter, 23rd verse. నేను పోస్ట్ చేస్తాను ప్రభుజీ మీకు.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. It is very nice shloka.
Yeah, it is a very wonderful shloka, very authentic shloka also.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. 3.2.23.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? And once again, please forgive me for the mistakes and thanking for staying until the end. So I'm assuming no other questions. Can I conclude the call?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much.
वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा, दंडवत प्रणाम।
Deepa Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna to all devotees. Hare Krishna Mataji.
दंडवत प्रणाम।
Yeah, I think we can leave the call, Mataji.
Yes, please leave the call.
Hare Krishna.